Riverbend Talent on the Big Z, another Thursday night, another sea shanty sing-along underway down at Morrison's Irish Pub. Riverbend Talent brought to you by the Halpin Music Company and by Mr. Matt Van Vorst of Macias Insurance, and it's been a long time, Big Ben, all the way back to 2016, the last time Mr. John Mondin come into the studios with us.
2016. See, that was before my time.
It was before you.
That was the very beginning of the show, or right at the very beginning there.
Well, what I did was I got all my good friends to come in right off the bat, and that way they'd understand what I was going through. And, nobody understands behind the scenes better than John Mondin. So. And you know what? We've been discussing this over the years when we announce your name, John. Is it Mondin or Mondin?
It's actually pronounced Mondin.
Yeah, but most people have changed it now to Mondin.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It was simpler.
Yeah. Yeah, so we went back and forth over the years, not disagreeing, just trying to remember, it's Mondin.
A lot of times I say Mondin, and then people look at me funny, and I'm like, I don't know. Well, only the man will know. So just catch up, people. Playing with the Soulard Blues Band. You played with the Mondin Band for many, many years, and
yes.
Eat a Peach, one of the bands. And
well, Eat a Peach was the first band I played with. I took a break from Soulard Blues Band, and so in 88, 89, Paul Graves and I decided to put the Mondin Band, which was then called Eat a Peach, together. We were doing a lot of Allman Brothers tribute type stuff, and that's the music we grew up on, and so we played that a lot, and we decided, well, we got to have a name for the band. We were playing down at Ralph's Fine Dining, and Ralph had a project. He said, I'm going to do this blues barbecue thing for about 5 weeks in the summer. And he goes, I just need a band to do some blues. And we said, well, we can put something together. And the gig wound up lasting 5 years after, that. 5 weeks turned into 5 years. But shortly after the summer session was over, and he said, I have to pay the paper, the Alton Telegraph, per word for the advertising for the band. And he said, Ralph's Sunday Barbecue Extravaganza Band just isn't going to cut it. So we said, well, we do a lot of Allman Brothers stuff. I said, well, why don't we just name it after one of our favorite albums, Eat a Peach. And that lasted for about, 3 years maybe. And then we got a call from a band in Chicago that was also Eat a Peach. Through the good old World Wide Web, we discovered that there was another band out there, and they were basically contesting us for the name. And we thought, well, they're up in Chicago, and we're down here, and we're just we're just dealing with a small market. Well, we kept using the name. Well, pretty soon their lawyers sent a really nice letter telling us to cease and desist using the name. So we had to come up with another name, and after bantering around a bunch of different versions of Eat a Peach and how we could still incorporate the name so it stayed recognizable, we kept coming up with either, peaches, and that wound up getting us to a porn site in Las Vegas. So that didn't work.
Some things pay off.
Then we tried Peach Pits, and then we thought, no, that's not going to work.
Also a porn site.
Right.
And then my wife, Kay, decided, well, look, nobody's going to sue you for using your name. And I said, well, there is another John Mondin, and he works for Conan O'Brien.
Ah.
So he's the stunt actor that used to appear in the audience.
Wow.
And he'd come down and do crazy stuff. But he's an actor. And I thought, well, he's got to be a distant cousin because there's family I have in the New York and Pennsylvania area. So we thought, well, he's not going to say anything. Well, and he never did. So we kept the Mondin band name.
Now, part of that story that you left out that I'd like to go over is Beer Bottle Bob.
Beer Bottle Bob. Bobby Nickerson.
Who was killed in an accident very similar to Dwayne Alton.
Yeah, that was kind of how we got the band together. We got the news that Bobby was down in Florida, in Jacksonville, doing a recording session, and he's riding his Harley back home, and a guy made an illegal left turn out of an intersection, and Bobby hit the back of the pickup truck.
Right.
And it was just, we were just devastated. You can imagine.
For sure.
So that's what precipitated the whole. I said, we need to get a band. We always talked about we were going to do this, and we lost one of our key, members, and we said, we're going to do this. Let's do it now while we can. And that's where the whole genesis for Eat a Peach started.
Yeah,
and then,
sure.
And about that time, I was with Soulard Blues Band prior to that, and that's when I decided to leave Soulard Blues Band and commit to this project full time.
Mm-hmm. Now, you were born in Hillsboro, right?
That's correct.
And then moved to Alton about junior high, somewhere in that area, I guess.
Yeah. Born in Hillsboro. My father passed away, and when I was 4 years old, so my mom moved us all to Ramsey, Illinois, where her family's from.
Okay. Then
we wound up migrating to Vandalia, Illinois, and we had a lot of family there. And my mom met my stepfather, and in the early 60s, we moved to Alton.
Right. About the time the Beatles were appearing on Ed Sullivan.
Oh, yeah.
You were a football player at that time, broke your leg, right?
Yeah.
And so you had to have something to do.
Yeah, I had to have something to do while I was recovering. But I started playing guitar when I was 7 years old, so I always had that, to fall back on. When I bored, when doing nothing around the house, I was always playing guitar, listening to music. We
recently had Paul Light on the show.
Yeah.
He was in one of your young bands, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, he and I met in 5th grade, summer band camp. He was 3rd chair, trombone, I was 4th chair. And we kind of struck up a friendship then, and we didn't really run into each other again until 7th grade when we were at East Junior. And we eventually started talking about music again, and we were talking about, well, I really like to play guitar, and I said, I don't really play trombone. I'm kind of a hack on a trombone, so he said, well, I like to play guitar as well, and he said, well, so we just kind of talked about it and said the kind of music we like to do, and next thing you know, we're getting together at each other's homes, and we start recruiting guys out of the band, at school, and finally we had 5 guitar players and 1 bass player. And so then we got Benny Fowler to play drums for us, and it just kind of grew from there.
Yeah, then, was that eventually Crosswind?
Well, it was 3rd Generation was our first band name, and then Paul Light left to join a group called Natural Trust, Bob Woolert and Brian Sanders, their band, and then I started Wood Station with some other friends, and we got about after high school is when Crosswind pretty much started. I joined a group called Tinley Park.
Oh, yeah.
Which was a Chicago tribute band started by Mike Light, Benny Fowler, and Steve Klein.
Oh, yeah.
Harvey Young, and Dave Thomas was in the band.
So did you play the role of Terry Kaith? Did you play the role of Terry in Chicago?
No, that wasn't the idea.
Okay.
But
that's my guy. That's why.
Oh, yeah, mine too. But Dave Thomas went away to school, and so they needed a guitar player, and so I happened to be, free at the time, so I joined the band, which over the years did eventually become Crosswind.
Right.
And that lasted until about 1979.
Right. And most of that time you're at Lewis and Clark College, right?
That's correct.
Part of the choir, part of the
choir,
band there.
part of the jazz band, studying classical guitar.
And radiology was your initial
radiology.
plan, right?
Yeah, it was my grand plan.
Right. But
Yeah.
You find out from teachers that getting into a radiology university wasn't real easy at that time.
My doctor even kind of
That's who it was, a doctor.
pointed that out to me. He said, "How are you going to get into med school?" And he says, at the time, med schools were taking everybody from foreign countries, and the idea of educating them with Western medicine and taking that back to their homeland. But that didn't pan out. Everybody saw the profits you could make here in the United States. So the doctors were sticking around, and the med schools were full, and so I was along with a number of my other friends, were the wrong material for med school.
Yeah.
So
Interesting, and I'm glad that happened.
Oh, ultimately, I'm glad as well.
Yeah,
Playing
because,
guitar's got to be a little less stressful than maybe being a doctor.
Oh.
At least, to me, playing guitar is like, what am I going to do? Mess up a song?
Well, it's...
Heart surgery, you mess up, there's some slightly more serious consequences.
A comment was made from a friend of mine, Mr. Steve Hoover, that you realize playing an instrument requires a lot of the same skills that a surgeon. You're out there performing a piece of music, you're playing, sometimes you're reading it right off the page, and the precision and the amount of work that goes into making sure you translate that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the same functions you do in your
Well, and it's one of those things, to really get good at it, you pretty much have to give up everything.
Yeah.
A lot of guys I know that have really dedicated their life to music have never had a job, as we say. Maybe the family life's been a little rough because they're always on the road, always trying to grind it out. When you live in a place like this where you can actually squeeze out a living, so you got guys who've never worked jobs in this area, and they just play music without traveling. And that even, we found out as the show's been going on for 10 years, that goes back, like the blues guys traveling from the Delta up to Chicago, stopping in St. Louis, because there was finally a paycheck. First paycheck since they left Mississippi. And we talked to a lot of guys around here. If you're willing to play in 3 or 4 different bands, if you're willing to play the wineries, you can make a living in playing music around here. So, at least we've got that going on for our area, because a lot of places you have to be on the road if you want to be playing night after night.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I did the 5 nights a week, 6 nights a week, and then traveling, internationally to play. I worked with a contractor where my job was to jump on a plane at 5 o'clock on a Monday morning and land wherever and perform a show for 20,000, convention, people.
Right.
Might be Amway, it could be Xerox, just you're there to read down a show, you rehearse it, play it, and then you fly back home.
Yeah, and like I say, hard to have a steady life when you're on the road like that,
Oh, yeah.
and regularly.
You bring up one of my favorite stories, since you're on the Amway, right? You got to tell us the story again about the Steinway piano.
Oh my, yeah.
What a legendary story.
Yeah,
you remember this one?
That story is legendary.
I feel like we were just talking about this story. Someone else brought up the Steinway piano story.
I used the bit from the last time he was on in our promo. And so you were playing an Amway show, I believe, and it was a tribute show, right?
Yeah, in Hamilton, Ontario, we were playing for Amway's Diamond Dealer Weekend. So these were all the top tier Amway execs, and we had brought in all of these tribute artists, and one of them was a Jerry Lee Lewis impersonator from Nashville, I believe. And this guy was spot on, the 50s Jerry Lee. He had a real issue with attention deficit syndrome. So he basically being led around by his manager the whole day. And the story goes like this: we had a writer for the equipment we needed for this particular show, and one of them required a grand piano, and for our Jerry Lee Lewis guy, and so it turns out one of the Diamond Dealer guys was having a new home built in Hamilton, and he was having a brand new Steinway delivered to his house. So rather than deliver it directly to his home, they delivered it to the stadium where we were playing, and had it all set up for us. And we were like, great, and went out and did the rehearsal, just fine. We said, okay, great. Night of the show, we start performing. And Jerry Lee comes out and sits at the piano, and he's doing his regular thing, and we were backing him up. And next thing you know, he gets into the last song, which is a whole lot of shaking going on. And all of a sudden, he just stands up and kicks the bench out from under him, and then grabs the music rack and pulls it off the piano and ducks, and it flies over his head. And two pieces of the piano fly off. I could see that this is going to be interesting. Then he jumps up on top of the piano with a cast iron Atlas mic stand and starts raking the keys with the mic stand. And he's playing the solo with the mic stand while he's singing. A whole lot of shaking going on. And the band is still playing, and everybody's just looking at this guy. And the director, the dearly departed Lenny Klinger, was just directing the band and not totally oblivious to all of this. And he all of a sudden notices that no one's watching him; they're looking behind him, and so he turns around and sees this guy tearing this brand new piano apart. And his hands drop to his sides, and he just slumps there and just watches this. We get back to the green room afterwards, and I'm laughing. I'm saying, "Man, this is the best show ever. This is the coolest thing."
Yeah, the owner's like of the piano, sitting there watching.
Oh yeah, he was sitting down at the edge of the stage, and he had a couple of girls with him, and he was just up there smoking a cigar and pointing at the piano like, yeah, that's my piano. Well, when Jerry Lee was ripping his piano apart, I had a video monitor at my feet, and I could see the camera angle he was shooting at, and there's the owner standing there, and his cigar dropped out of his mouth, and he's just staring at this piano being torn up. So when we get to the green room afterwards, and we're sitting there, and I'm right next to the Jerry Lee guy, and he's just shaking. I mean, literally just feet bouncing everywhere. I'm like, wow, man, that was a great show. He just he couldn't even speak. He just, yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, like oh. I thought it was kind of like one of those moments. Oh gosh,
for sure.
Somebody's got to pay for that piano.
Yeah, he did about $20,000 worth of damage. We found out. So it was, but later on, we all had a big laugh about it in the bar. we said, we can't believe what he did to that piano, but it was kind of cool.
Oh yeah, that's so punk rock, right?
Yeah.
But
no offense to anybody out there who owns a Steinway. Believe you me, they are one of the best made pianos, because if they can put up with torture like that.
Yeah.
And like you say, being able to watch the owner on the video would be one of the most comedic.
Yeah.
You feel bad for the guy because he didn't ask for this, but at the same time,
I didn't know. I kind of felt sorry for him.
Oh yeah, well that's what I mean.
I thought,
But you're laughing too.
well, because no one expected this.
Yeah, this is rock and roll.
Wow.
So I want to take a minute to mention one of the reasons you come into
Yes.
the show tonight was to help promote this Sunday's show, October 12th, the Bud Summers Music Foundation non-for-profit tribute show that has been going on now for a very long time. Porch Cafe, the band that's putting that together, and it's going to be down at the Amphitheater. They'll have food trucks and all kinds of fun stuff, including the Alton High School Jazz Ensemble.
Nice.
The Mondin band's going to be there. Aaron Joe, Cole Tarrant, Everhart and Light, and Crossroad Band. It has Soulard Blues Band listed here as well.
Yes.
So you're going to play double.
Yeah, I get to do double duty that day.
So, yeah, that's always a good thing, though. You've been playing for the Bud Summers since they started.
We started, yeah.
In one way or another, you're down there.
Yeah, Rob McDonald called me, and, of course, Bud and Bud Summers and Bill McAtee were members of the Stingers.
Okay.
And Rob's the only surviving member left of that original trio. So they played down at Max Time Out about every Sunday. And but when Rob called me and said, "Hey, I'm putting this together, as a tribute to Bud," and we had Jason McAtee and his brother.
Will?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking of the Levi's. I'm sorry. Rob McAtee? I'm drawing a blank, too.
Yeah.
He's the quiet one.
Yeah, see?
That's why no one remembers his name. No, I'm just kidding.
So I'm thinking of the Levi's from the
Porch Cafe.
You got Will and, yeah.
But they're fantastic players, and I know they work with Bud on a number of projects, and so they were involved early on, and they just decided, Rob said, could you play, Bud's parts? And I said, well, sure, I'd be proud to do that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And Bud and I have known each other for years. I mean, it's just, we never got the opportunity to actually work in a band together, but we had mutual friends that all worked with each other, so it's kind of, we were just like one little family.
Did you guys cross paths at Halpin Music?
Yeah, Halpin Music and at SIU.
Okay.
Yeah, we were
I know
both.
Bud worked there, and you work with Halpin Music as well as a certified fender repairman, right?
Yeah, that came along a little bit later, but I was I kind of got my start in the guitar repair business.
Right.
Yeah, they kept watching me take my students' guitars out to the front and adjust them. And I said, the kids can't play these things like this. And finally, one of the managers walked up and said, hey, we noticed you're always taking your students' guitars out here and working on them and making them play better. He said, would you like a job doing that? And I, sure.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it all started from.
Well, that and your own guitars, because you always had a beater, right, that you rebuilt.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Always had a beater guitar, something that always needed work,
So what do you have a favorite guitar of all time that you've owned at some point?
Oh, my.
Too many to mention? That's like too many girlfriends, right?
Probably. Oh, man. Probably my favorite is a pink Stratocaster I put together. It was just one of those things when I was working at Dale's. We had a whole shipment of guitars come in that were from the new Fender company at the time in 1986. That one of them came in as a salmon pink Strat, we had that thing on the wall, and no one would buy it. You know, they'd pick it up and play it, and they loved the way it played. And what usually happened was a customer would request that neck, and could you put a different body on this?
Or paint this body.
Yeah.
Was that one of the real heavy Strats? Was that one of the heavy Strats?
No, these were all pretty light.
They're light.
Lightweight. And so I would swap the bodies out and reset the guitars up, and then I'd put the pink guitar back on the wall with a replacement neck. And as it turned out, this happened like 3 different times. And I said, you know, I got better things to do than to tear a guitar apart, brand new guitar, and then just swap the necks. I said, why don't we just retire this body? And I wound up, long and short, I wound up with the body.
Okay.
You know, I asked the boss during inventory time, what are we going to do with this? You want it? Sure. Then about that time, I saw a picture of Adrian Blue's new custom shop Strat with the Roland electronics to control his synthesizer with, and he was using a pink guitar, and I thought, I've got a perfect tribute model.
Perfect segue, too, because it reminds me of another story when you were playing a guitar synth and playing King Crimson songs, and a bar owner wasn't too happy with your guys' selection of music. And I point this out because a lot of young musicians might be thinking, John Mondin never had a bad gig. We all have bad ones, don't we, John?
Yeah.
You remember that one?
Yeah. Good Time Charlie's in Benton, Illinois. Slowly I turn, step by step, inch by inch. No, we played, we had a band that played a lot of 80s music, the real breaking stuff, and then we were doing like King Crimson music from the Beat album, stuff from the late 70s, early 80s era, King Crimson, and pretty experimental stuff. But our booking agent sent us to this little club in Benton, Illinois, and we played all of the Eurythmics. We played all of the hip stuff that was happening on the radio at that time, and the bartenders kind of dug it. But unfortunately, Good Time Charlie was there, and he didn't like it at all, and he basically told us to play some, pardon my expression, God beep rock and roll. Well, that brought out the 14-year-old kid in me that had been turned down at the VFW to play him because we played long-haired music. I got angry and told everybody to just turn the synthesizers off. He wants to hear some rock and roll. So we shut all the electronics off and just played straight out. Turned all the amps up to 10, and then played a bunch of Johnny Winter, Eric Clapton, just the loudest stuff we could play for the last hour and a half. We must have played. We counted 80 songs on the way home. We were writing them down because we figured we were going to have to play these again the next night because it was a 2-night stand at this place. Then we get there and start playing, and everybody's digging it for a bit, and then finally we take a break, and the bartenders walk over and he goes, Good Time Charlie's not here tonight, and we kind of like the stuff you guys were playing when you started last night. So it went full circle. We wound up back playing the music we started to play the night before. So kids, let me tell you, just stick to your guns and do what you think is right, and you're going to be fine.
Man, playing King Crimson, I mean, how awesome is that anyway? I don't care if it's a Good Time Charlie's or Bad Time Charlie's.
Well, frame by frame was a little bit, probably a little over the top for most people, to handle. But
it reminds me, though, of, Mondin Band getting back together for this Bud Summers tribute on the 12th, and longtime member, probably goes back to the beginning as Paul Graves.
Yes.
And you actually met him at a gig, had never played with him before, and
That's true.
You guys had to figure out what you were going to do.
We had met probably 4 months prior to that. He walked into Dale's one day as part of the Anheuser-Busch Busch Creative group that handles the touring musicians. And at this particular time, Anheuser-Busch was sponsoring Lou Rawls. So they were on tour, and Lou Rawls specified he wanted a PV bass amp. Well, we rented equipment to pro organizations. So here's this guy walking around in the store with a clipboard, and there's no one there to help him. So I walk out of my shop and say, "Hey, can I help?" And he goes, "Yeah, I've got this PV bass amp that I need to have." And so I took him over, showed him all the amps we had. And I said, "Well, I'm going to have to get a salesman to help you." But we shook hands, and they said, "Yeah, well, good luck." And, "Hey, man, great. You know, it's pretty neat what you're doing with the tour." And that. I said, "Yeah, maybe we'll catch up later." Well, and 4 months later, middle of winter, we're at this place out on Manchester Road, and a mutual friend of ours said, "Hey, I got this gig, and we're just going to meet out there, and we'll start playing." So none of us had ever played a note together before, but we show up. I show up anyway, and there's no one there. There's not even an audience. There's only 4 bartenders, and I see this big stage, and I'm going, where? There's no equipment. Where is everything? And I wondered if I had the wrong night. Well, then Paul Graves walks in, and we look at each other, and he goes, "You," and I go, "You." And we shake hands and start talking. He goes, "You know any more about this?" He goes, "No, I just knew to be here." And then, so Carrie I, and Bobby Nickerson show up, and they have everything in the back of pickup trucks. We set up the band, and we were ready to go, and still nobody in the audience yet. And it's starting to snow, like, really hard out there. And we think, okay, no one's going to come out to see us. But we thought, well, we might as well get started anyway. So we look at each other and go, what do you want to play? Well, I said, I know an Allman Brothers song. And so we started out with Statesboro Blues. From that point on, 4 hours went by and nothing flat, so we had a band.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much how we were for about 3 years or so.
So the Mondin band, though, hasn't played much over the last few years, but the 4 and 20 tribute band has continued to play, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Paul's part of that, right?
Paul is part of that.
And you guys got a show coming up on November 14th?
Yes, that's correct. Family Arena, St. Charles, Missouri.
It's like an annual event.
Yep, it's turning into that, isn't it?
So we got tickets here at the studio if you want to pick them up. They're free tickets, right?
They're free tickets. It's a free show.
And so you guys have been doing that for quite some time. A nice big crowd last time you played. And tell us a little bit about that show.
Well, it's Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young, and it's as authentic as we can make it. We're not trying to look the parts, but we just want the music to speak for itself. And we all grew up with that music, and it never got old.
Right.
And listening to Scott and Terry and perform, I had an idea that started, almost 20 years ago when we ran into each other, and I said, I got this idea, and seeing El Monstero in their early years, and I had friends out in Los Angeles that were going and said, man, tribute bands are real big out here. And they said, we're going to see this band this weekend. They said they're literally as famous as the original band, and it was a Doors tribute band. And I said, wow, that's kind of interesting. So I kind of kept that in the back of my mind, and I thought when I saw Scott and Terry perform, so they were doing some Crosby, Stills, Nash material, and I said, I got this idea, and I think we could pull it off. I think we could do it, and I was thinking more in terms of like doing some convention, entertainment, selling that to international party planners, and trying to make a really big production out of it. Well, as it turned out, the market kind of dropped out of the bottom for the corporate entertainment business, but we still kept the idea alive about doing the tribute shows. And little by little, we rehearsed for almost 2 years, and finally our chance came where the Alton Block Party came, and Poco was the headlining act. And they contacted us, and we said, yeah, we'll be glad to open for those guys, and turned it into from there, it's never, we've never looked back since then. I just put it that way.
And for our listeners who aren't putting the puzzle together, when he says Scott and Terry, he's talking about Rogers and Nienhaus.
Rogers and Nienhaus.
And when you bring up Crosby, we always got to point out that they got sued by David Crosby. So, another Sue story.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Enlighten me.
Yeah, well, they had the Birds
celebration.
Yeah.
And Michael Clark was part of that.
Yeah.
And, they got a cease and desist, which you know all about.
Yeah, I know about that.
So,
I'm familiar.
That's a short version.
I think Terry says David Crosby sued him 3 times now.
Yeah. You want to elaborate a little bit on the St. Charles Arena? You guys had a nice little conversation going on about how that works.
Well, it is a really neat system, and I'm not 100% sure how it all works. We were just discussing it, but it's a situation where they'll pair up, one act such as the 4 and 20 with another act, and I believe you said it's the Judds or something at one time, and it was who's the funny one?
Caesar the Dog.
Caesar the Dog.
We opened for Caesar the Dog Whisperer.
Right. And so that they'll have the stage that's coming in with the lights and the sound and everything, but it's going to be there all weekend waiting for the show. So they set up another show, and they make it where it's nice and easy. You can get free tickets to the show.
Yeah,
you have to pay for parking.
Right.
It's like $10 to park a car, but everyone's getting in free. So nobody ever really cares about the $10 parking.
Man, everybody some even rent buses.
Yeah,
like some of the bars, and entertainment venues around the area.
Yeah,
they have a group of people that just rent a bus, and they all share the costs.
Yeah,
and it's the party bus on the way to the.
Yeah, I mean, what a great idea there, because you got a free show. So if a local, establishment, maybe a bar or something, supplying the ride to St. Charles and back, man, that's a party when you start at the bar, a party when on the ride
and
over.
you're not driving.
And you're not driving. That means you actually get to party. But no, it is neat the way that they set those shows up.
It's really nice.
Where they do offer free tickets to really good shows with really good production. At a nice venue. And it's pretty exciting to see how they make that work. That being the case,
they're amazing over there. I mean, with the kind of help that they give us, and everybody just works all day long to make the show the best it can be. And we, from the time we get there and unload, the stagehands are there with all the trucks and the cranes and everything to lift everything on stage, and literally all we have to do is set it up and plug it in and make sure it's working, and then we do our sound check.
Yeah. And because, once again, like you say, that they have professional crews there that are going to be there with that equipment from the time they bring it till it leaves. So you have access to these professional guys to take care of everything. And that's the rub of being a working musician sometimes is it's not so much the playing, it's the moving the gear. Oh,
yeah. The stagehands are our best friends there. Yeah. They're our allies.
Well, and it's we were discussing Alex Honky earlier, who does the videos for this show, and me and him and our other friend Jeff Nelson have a sound crew together, and one of the gigs we do is called the Mile of Music up in Wisconsin. 40 stages, 4 days, and we have so many bands tell us that we love being on your stage, because we care so much about, what the musician hears. It's as important to us what the musician hears as what the front of the house is, because if the musician's comfortable, they're not thinking about, man, that is a little mid-range, needs, you're not thinking about what's wrong with your sound. You're just happy and you get to relax, and we appreciate it whenever we're involved with something where the crew actually cares.
I think they understand the kind of stress that as they like to say, the talent is under. Yeah. Because we're there to deliver the best show we can, and we got so many little things that we're trying to work with, and that is a large venue. Yes. And so the equipment's got to be dialed in. It's got to be set up correctly and tuned in, and you're thinking about all of that, not all of the other stuff. Yeah, and that's what they do. And so you're
and you kind of said the magic words where we're all in this together. We're all working to make the best show, and I've been involved with different events where. Why are you here? Because you feel like certain people aren't there working as a team for whatever reason. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's great whenever it isn't like that, because really, not just in an event, in life, we're all in this together.
That's true.
And we really got to figure out how to make it work here.
So that's coming up, the 4 and 20 tribute on November 14th. We're talking also about this Sunday, the Bud Summers tribute down at the Amphitheater, and that's going to involve the Soulard Blues Band and the Mondin Band. We're going to.
Oh yeah.
We're going with that now. Everhart and Light, Crossroad Band, Cole Tarrant, Aaron Joe going to be down there, and the Alton High School Jazz Ensemble. So you might want to sit in and play some trombone with them.
Oh gosh, they'd kick me out in a heartbeat.
I do want to mention that Porch Cafe is playing at Roper's on Saturday this weekend. So two chances to catch Porch Cafe, and man, they are brilliant.
They are fantastic.
Yeah. Awesome band.
Awesome.
So, that's interesting. I wanted to touch on something that we didn't get a chance to touch on the last time me and you sat down, and that was back in 2016. When you're working on guitars, you've actually worked on some pretty famous people's guitars, like Derek Trucks.
Still do.
Right. Johnny Winter, you mentioned him earlier. Anybody else you want to throw some names around? And you say you still work on Derek Trucks.
I still do. And in fact, I actually met him. Okay. He came down to the Oyster Bar one Monday and hung out with us, and I went to the show the following night at the Fox last year.
So
that was a blast.
You got to see the guitar you worked on?
Oh, yeah. I had to keep that a secret. It was kind of a surprise gift. It was a surprise for him. Yeah. But I had to keep my mouth shut.
One had was, is the Soulard Island Dudes the same as the... No?
No.
See, I've seen that listed, and I've always wondered if that was just... And the only place they play is Portage de Sioux.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe you just changed the name and did some island.
No, that's a different band altogether.
I always wondered.
That's Denny Pottist.
Oh, so you do know him, though.
Yeah, Mr. Wizard.
Okay. Just wanted to clear that up so we know what's going on.
Yeah, it's a different band, I guess, because he's living in Soulard, and I guess he put a group of guys together. I don't know much about them other than I know that they play island music and rock and roll, but everybody's got to have a name, and Soulard is just one of those names that's so easy to adopt once you move into that neighborhood.
All right. Well, we appreciate you coming in, John.
I appreciate you having me out.
Yeah, having you down at the Amphitheater on Sunday with the Bud Summers tribute, and then get those tickets for the 4 and 20 tribute coming up November 14th.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we got to scoot out of here, but we'd like to thank our sponsors, Halpin Music Company, and Mr. Matt Van Forest of Macias Insurance. All right.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Everybody remember to get out and support local music and art.